The valet uniform hung in my closet like evidence of a crime I hadn't committed yet. Navy blazer, crisp white shirt, black bow tie. The same outfit worn by actual employees of Rosewood Manor, the premier wedding venue in 3 counties. The same venue I'd quietly purchased 18 months ago through my hospitality investment firm. Maya, you need to be there by 4 p.m. sharp. My sister Anaya's voice crackled through my phone with the authority of someone accustomed to giving orders to people she considered beneath her notice. The venue coordinator specifically requested extra valet staff for today. I adjusted my earpiece while reviewing the event timeline on my office computer. Anaya's wedding was scheduled to begin at 6 p.m., with cocktail hour starting at 5:30. What she didn't know was that I'd been receiving detailed updates about every aspect of her dream wedding for the past 8 months. Not because I was involved in planning, but because I owned the venue hosting it. 4 p.m. Got it. I made a note in my calendar, right next to the 3 p.m. slot already blocked for my monthly owners meeting with the venue management team. And Maya? Please try not to embarrass us today. Dad already had to explain to his golf partners why you're working service jobs instead of using your college degree. My computer science degree from Stanford, followed by an MBA from Wharton, apparently qualified me for valet work in my family's estimation. They had no idea about the software company I'd sold for $48 million 2 years ago, or the hospitality portfolio I'd been building with the proceeds. I'll do my best not to embarrass anyone, I said, watching the real-time booking system show Anaya's event as one of 12 weddings scheduled across my 5 venue properties this weekend. Good. Oh, and remember, guests are not supposed to know your family. The venue coordinator said it looks more professional if the staff maintains appropriate boundaries. Appropriate boundaries. I'd been maintaining those my entire adult life, watching my family celebrate achievements they couldn't imagine I'd already surpassed while treating me like their personal ATM for emergencies that always seemed to coincide with their luxury purchases. Understood. Professional boundaries. Perfect. See you at 4. Don't be late. You know how important this day is to me. The call ended with Anaya already moving on to her next task, probably coordinating with the florist about the $10,000 worth of arrangements that I'd ultimately be paying for through my venue service fees. I spent the next hour reviewing staff schedules and event logistics with Marcus Webb, Rosewood Manor's general manager. Marcus had been running luxury venues for 15 years and had no idea that his 29-year-old boss would be parking cars alongside his regular valet team in 3 hours. The Sharma wedding is one of our premium packages, Marcus reported, pulling up the contract details on his tablet. Full venue buyout, seated dinner for 280 guests, extended bar service and custom lighting design. Total event value is just over $120,000. $120,000 that my family assumed was being paid entirely by Anaya's future in-laws, the Sharmas, who owned a successful chain of medical clinics. What they didn't realize was that Anaya had negotiated a family discount that reduced the actual cost to $60,000, a discount I'd quietly approved while letting the venue coordinator take credit for securing the deal. Any special requests from the bride's family? Marcus scrolled through his notes. Standard demands mostly. The bride's father requested extra security for the parking area, apparently concerned about some family members who might not represent the family appropriately in front of their social circle. Extra security to manage family members. I wondered if Dad realized he was paying for security guards to supervise his own daughter. The mother of the bride asked about staff background checks, Marcus continued. She was particularly concerned about the valet team having appropriate credentials. Appropriate credentials. My Stanford computer science degree and Wharton MBA apparently weren't sufficient credentials for parking cars, but they'd have to suffice. I'll personally oversee the valet operations today, I told Marcus, who nodded without questioning why the owner would involve herself in parking lot logistics. By 3:30 I was dressed in the navy blazer and reviewing the guest list one final time. 300 guests, including Dad's golf partners, Mom's book club friends, and an assortment of family members who'd spent years offering career advice to someone they assumed was underachieving. At 3:45, I walked from my venue office to the employee entrance, badge clipped to my blazer, ready to spend the evening parking cars in the lot I'd had repaved just 6 months earlier. Sometimes the best revenge was simply showing up to work. The first guests arrived at 4:15, precisely when Marcus's event timeline predicted. I stood with the other valet attendants near the curved driveway entrance, watching luxury vehicles navigate the approach to what my family considered the most exclusive venue in the state. Paya. Anaya's voice carried across the parking area with the particular edge she reserved for moments when my presence threatened her carefully constructed image. What are you doing out here? The ceremony doesn't start for 90 minutes. She swept toward me in her reception dress, a stunning creation that cost more than most people's monthly rent, flanked by her maid of honor and two bridesmaids who regarded me with the mixture of pity and curiosity usually reserved for exotic zoo animals. I'm working valet until the ceremony begins, I explained, accepting car keys from a guest who handed them over without making eye contact. Working valet? This is my wedding day. You can't be parking cars when people we know might see you. The irony was perfect. Anaya was embarrassed by my presence at an event taking place on my own property. The venue coordinator requested extra staff for tonight. But Dad's partners from the medical group are coming, and Mom invited the entire hospital auxiliary board. What are they going to think when they see you doing manual labor? Before I could respond, Uncle Raj's Mercedes pulled into the drive, followed closely by Aunt Priya's BMW. The family convoy had arrived, bringing with them 20 years of accumulated opinions about my life choices. Maya, sweetheart. Aunt Priya emerged from her car wearing enough jewelry to fund a small non-profit organization. How wonderful that you found work here. Such a beautiful venue. The owners must be incredibly successful. She handed me her keys with the charitable smile people use when they think they're being kind to the help. I always knew you'd find your niche eventually. Service work is so important. Uncle Raj joined the conversation, pulling me aside with the conspiratorial air of someone dispensing career wisdom. Maya, I have to ask, are there advancement opportunities here? Maybe you could work your way up to event coordination or venue management. Work my way up to venue management. I accepted keys from another arriving guest while considering how to respond to career advice about advancing to my current position. The management structure here is pretty established, I said diplomatically. Well, don't give up hope. Your cousin Arjun started as a hospital orderly and now he's in administration. Persistence pays off. Dad appeared at my elbow, his expression suggesting he was calculating the social cost of having his daughter park cars in front of his professional associates. Maya, perhaps you should take a break when the ceremony begins. We don't want guests to be confused about your role here. My role is to ensure smooth parking operations throughout the event. Yes, but... Dad lowered his voice, glancing around to make sure no one could overhear. Dr. Patterson from the surgical group specifically asked why you weren't seated with the family during the ceremony. It's awkward to explain that you're working instead of celebrating your sister's wedding. Dr. Patterson, who'd made a fortune in cosmetic surgery, was presumably more comfortable with traditional family hierarchies where everyone knew their place. Unfortunately, my place was currently owner of the venue where he'd be dining tonight. I'll make sure to minimize any confusion, I assured Dad, who looked relieved that I understood the importance of maintaining appearances. The next hour brought a steady stream of family members and family friends, each interaction revealing new layers of assumptions about my financial situation and career prospects. Mom's book club friends offered encouragement about finding stability in hospitality work. Dad's golf partners made jokes about me finally finding a job where I could learn some real-world skills. Anaya's college friends expressed sympathy for my difficult transition into the working world. By 5:45, I'd parked 73 cars and fielded approximately 15 offers of career guidance, 8 expressions of concern about my late start in finding stable employment, and 3 suggestions that I consider going back to school for something more practical. At 6 p.m. sharp, Marcus's voice crackled through my earpiece. All valet staff, please transition to ceremony support positions. The processional begins in 10 minutes. I handed my earpiece to Jennifer, the lead valet coordinator, and slipped into the venue's back entrance. Time to change from employee to owner for the evening's main event. In my office, I hung up the navy blazer and pulled on the elegant black dress I'd chosen for my sister's wedding. A dress that cost more than most people's monthly salaries, purchased with money my family assumed I didn't have. The ceremony was about to begin, but the real show would start during the reception, when Marcus delivered the evening's surprise announcement. The ceremony proceeded flawlessly, with Anaya radiant as she exchanged vows beneath the custom floral archway I'd had installed specifically for spring weddings. I watched from the back row, having changed from valet uniform into evening attire that drew confused glances from family members who couldn't reconcile my presence in designer clothing with my earlier role parking cars. During cocktail hour, I mingled carefully, accepting compliments about the venue's beauty while listening to guests speculate about the mysterious owners who'd created such a perfect wedding destination. "Whoever owns this place must have exquisite taste," gushed Mrs. Chin, Mom's book club president. "And the investment required? Probably millions. Some people just have all the luck." The dinner service showcased exactly why Rosewood Manor commanded premium pricing. Locally sourced menu, impeccable presentation, seamless coordination between kitchen and service staff. I caught Dad nodding approvingly to his medical colleagues, taking credit for choosing such an exceptional venue. At 9 p.m., during the transition between dinner and dancing, Marcus approached the microphone for what guests assumed would be routine venue acknowledgments. "Ladies and gentlemen, before we open the dance floor, I have a special announcement from Rosewood Manor's ownership group." The crowd quieted, wine glasses pausing midway to lips as 300 guests focused their attention on the stage. 5 years ago, Rosewood Manor was acquired by Aurora Hospitality Group, a company founded with the vision of creating unique celebration spaces that honor both tradition and innovation. I felt my stomach tighten as Marcus delivered the speech we'd rehearsed that afternoon, knowing that every word was about to detonate the carefully constructed narrative my family had built around my life. "Tonight, we're honored to celebrate not just the marriage of Anaya and Vikram, but also a very special connection between our venue and this wedding celebration. Aurora Hospitality Group's founder and so happens to be family." The silence that followed was so complete I could hear the ice machine cycling in the bar area. Maya Patel purchased Rosewood Manor in January 2022, making tonight's celebration a particularly meaningful homecoming. "Maya, would you join me on stage?" The walk from my table to the microphone felt like crossing a minefield. Every step was accompanied by sharp intakes of breath, whispered conversations, and the sound of assumptions crashing into reality. "Thank you, Marcus." My voice carried clearly through the sound system, reaching every corner of the ballroom where my family sat in various stages of shock. When I acquired Rosewood Manor, I never imagined it would host such a personal celebration. I could see Dad's face draining of color as he processed the implications. Mom's hand had frozen halfway to her wine glass. Uncle Raj looked like he was trying to solve a complex mathematical equation in his head. Aurora Hospitality Group operates 5 venues across 3 states, but Rosewood Manor holds a special place in our portfolio because it represents the intersection of business success and family celebration. Anaya's expression had shifted from confusion to something approaching horror as she realized that her dream venue was owned by the sister she'd had parking cars 3 hours earlier. "The valet work this afternoon was a personal choice," I continued, making direct eye contact with Dad. "Sometimes it's important to understand every aspect of your business operations." The applause started hesitantly from guests who weren't sure how to react to this revelation, then built as people began appreciating the evening's unexpected drama. "Now let's celebrate Anaya and Vikram's beautiful beginning." The reception continued, but the energy had fundamentally shifted. Guests who had offered me career advice now approached with business cards and investment opportunities. The same people who'd pitted my service work suddenly wanted to discuss my vision for luxury hospitality. Dad spent the remainder of the evening in damage control mode, explaining to his medical colleagues how he'd always known I had entrepreneurial potential. Mom pivoted to taking credit for my business instincts, claiming she'd encouraged my independence from an early age. Anaya oscillated between fury and desperate attempts to associate herself with my success, telling anyone who would listen about her incredibly successful sister, who'd always been modest about her achievements. The wedding photos were stunning, but the follow-up conversations were more revealing. Dr. Patterson, who'd questioned my absence from the family table, spent 20 minutes pitching his cosmetic surgery practice as a potential corporate client. Aunt Priya, who'd patronized me about finding my niche, asked about investment opportunities in my hospitality portfolio. 3 weeks later, the consequences began manifesting in ways they hadn't anticipated. Dad's social standing at the country club improved dramatically when members realized his daughter owned half the premium venues they used for their own events. Mom's book club suddenly wanted to host their annual fundraiser at Rosewood Manor, assuming they'd receive family pricing. But Uncle Raj's assumption that I'd hire his unemployed son as a favor to family met with corporate hiring policies. And Anaya's expectation that her friends would receive wedding discounts discovered that business decisions weren't subject to family pressure. The valet uniform still hangs in my closet, a reminder that sometimes the most powerful position is the one nobody expects you to hold.